today we have Mary here and Sing Tan, who's my dad, joining Jonathan and I for our conversation this week. And we are talking about.
We're talking about getting cold feet. Because, well, I'm going to look at the incident when Moses sent a number of scouts into the promised land, because God had reached the point where he said, okay, you're ready, you're going to go into the promised land, I'm going to give it to you. And so they went in to have a look around. But when they came back, they said, yeah, it's a great place, but we're scared to go in. And realizing that is a circumstance that actually is extremely common, that we are confronted with something which we think, that's a good idea, I'd like to do that, but then we get cold feet.
What are some situations that God has placed you in where the inner dialogue between fear and faith has been particularly pronounced?
What happened was that after I came to know the Lord rather late in life, at the age of 40, I decided that I had to grow as quickly as possible in the things of the kingdom, and so I joined a Christian company to work with them, and it was quite a desert walk for about 8 years. We had all the ingredients for success, but somehow or other the company was never really successful. So one day I decided that my time with them was up, and I began to pray about what next. And early one morning at about 4 a.m., which is to me one of the times when the Lord often tries to catch my attention, I suddenly had a very clear word that I was to go out and start a new venture for the Lord myself. And so you can understand how I took that, because after going through 8 years of so-called lack of success, and then to hear you had to go out and start a business, and it was also something of a new experience, because it was quite clear to me that the business was going to be in the area of missions, which I had very little experience of up to that time. And so there was a lot of argument with the Lord about whether this was really something that he wanted me to do. But after I decided that I had to start taking my first steps, I must say that the Lord was really gracious, because the new company that I set up was very quickly successful. I had a very good partner from a new friend, but became a very meaningful part of my life, missions partner from Wales. And together the Lord used the business over the next 25 years. The company still exists today after I've retired, but the company has enjoyed a lot of success. But it was really the time of preparation to launch out that was quite
challenging.
Not exactly frightening, but
uncomfortable. right?
When you were saying that, it reminded me of the time when God said to the Israelites, "Go and step into the Jordan River," and immediately they stepped into the Jordan River. It parted, but it wasn't parted until their feet were in the water.
That's true.
But it's getting to that point where you put your feet in the water sometimes.
What were the kind of arguments you were having with God when you were arguing with him? I'm curious about that.
Well, arguments like, God, you must be joking, I've never gone into missions, and here I'm to start a new business. I don't have the financial means to start a big business. So indeed, actually, in the end, I only invested something like about $6,000 US into that venture. But it was more than adequate to make it viable, even with that little small amount of capital.
And when you were speaking about your venture in work, right? I was thinking about my ventures in work, and just recently our grant ended. We had a 10-year cycle grant that just stops, right? You don't get it anymore, and it was right before COVID hit. And so everything was changing, and I was just like, I don't know what to do. I don't think it's ever going to work again. Everything's going to have to change. And I was so afraid. And not once during that fear time did I turn it over to the Lord. And I recognize that about myself, that I can live in that space where I'm just afraid. But it takes me a little bit to remember, I'm sorry, God. Like, I should have given this to you like 3 days ago, and maybe I would feel better, right?
I think you said something really important there, Mary. And I think you implied the same thing, saying when you were going through, it's that I had to do this more than once. It wasn't, because sometimes I think the impression is given as just, okay, I surrendered it to the Lord and everything was okay. And certainly in my experience, and it's sometimes it's a moment by moment thing that I surrender it to the Lord and I take it back almost in the same minute, and I have to. It's practicing. We talked last week about the presence of God. It's practicing the presence of God, and it's practicing the fact that I really have to live that He's in charge.
I wonder for you, Mary, when you said that grant ran out, and then you were scared. What kind of conversations were you having with yourself, and then how did those conversations transform as you were giving it up to God?
Yeah, I think I was unsure of myself, and I think that's where it usually falls in my experience with fear. It's a fear that I'm not good enough. I'm not going to be able to do anything else. This is all I know how to do. Yeah, and it definitely appears in my brain like that, like the self-doubt, and then, by turning it over, and I have the honor to be a part of the recovery community, and so we remind each other all the time. So that's very helpful to have people remind you. That's very helpful, right? It allows me to be in peace, even just for a moment, like. Okay, I can feel my shoulders drop. I'm going to turn it over to the Lord. And even if I take it back right away, I get that sense of peace. And then curiosity for me. Like, what can, not I don't know what I can do, but what can I do? And so that's how the conversation changed for me.
Right, there is no formula, and I think the Scripture makes that very clear to us too. Is the fact that the thing that is always that if there's a formula, is that God has a plan. God has a way He's going to do it, and I was listening to somebody this morning who was talking about, said the journey and the destination are all about God. But the journey that he takes you on to get you to the destination he wants you to get to may look nothing like anything that's leading towards the destination. And
Did God ever send people who were like the Joshua and Caleb, who could see with eyes of faith, into your journey?
I was in a meeting and I met a young man. It was in a professional meeting. And I met him one time on Zoom. And the next time I saw him, he said to me, "Mary, I think you're supposed to work near me." And he works at the health center in Daly City. And I said, "Okay." Work near, like, what does that mean, work near you? And he's like, "No, we're just gonna create a space for you here. You can come, you can be just part of our space. I just think I'm supposed to be near you." And so I went and I moved things and I created a space there. And as I was putting like my last little touches on the desk, he came over to me and he said, "So, do you mind if I pray over this?" And I was like, "Oh my." Like, what a relief.
do I mind?
Yeah, I was like, yeah, we can pray. And so this beautiful friendship and partnership has begun, and now our work is expanding, and it's doing things I didn't think it was going to do, and I'm comfortable. I have a team around me. Yeah, it's been really beautiful. But just to know that he is also a follower of Jesus Christ makes it a huge difference in my day every time I see him. You know, we don't even have to say anything to each other, and we know that it's like an inside prayer, and it's beautiful. I believe that that today the Lord sent you guys to me because I've spent the last 24 hours in frozen in fear. Frozen. Like I was gonna walk, when I saw the cameras, I need to leave. Like, I can't handle this right now. I can't do this right now because I have just been so afraid of there's just so many angry people right now. But here I am, right, sitting with you all, feeling like the word of God can flow through my mouth instead of my thoughts. You know, like, and to have this conversation, that's a gift, right?
What happened was that I was going to a early morning prayer meeting organized by youth with the mission, and it was on a beach, like before sunrise. So I got there with my wife Maylee, and then, you know, we were a bit early, and along came this couple riding on a little scooter, and they were early, and we did not know who they were, and it turned out to be that this guy was Bill Rigdon and his wife Sarah. They had just come into town, into Singapore, maybe about 6 months earlier than that. They did not know people, so we struck up a conversation, and then very quickly after that, the prayer meeting began. So that was the first time I encountered him. And when I got this word that I was to start a business for missions, there were only two people that I knew at the time in missions. You know, one was someone from youth in the mission, in fact a good friend, and he was a leader for Southeast Asia. I went to talk to him and said, you know, I had this word to start a business for missions, and his quick response was, "Don Singh, it's good to know about this. the Lord may have spoken to you, but He hasn't spoken to me at all. So I was feeling pretty rejected by this good friend. So in desperation, I decided to ask him, do you happen to know this other guy who showed up at the prayer meeting? And it so happened that he did know this couple, Bill and Sarah Rigdon. And I, sort of got to know him. Second meeting, we had lunch together, and things just fell into place.
So, for you guys in these situations, or maybe there are other situations that come to mind. What were some little footsteps that God had you take to walk out the faith?
Yeah.
Yeah, and God takes us through the pit to bring us, as this chap was talking this morning, he takes us through the pit to bring us to the palace. And sometimes he takes us through the pit multiple times, reminding us that he brings us out. And every time you're in the pit, you when you're challenged by anything, those are the times when you really get cold feet. You know, this is an awful place I'm in right now, and you want me to take a step of faith?
Yeah.
Really? And because it's easy in a sense. It's much easier to take a step of faith or to take a step when everything's going swimmingly and everything's great. But when things are not going well, it's I've tried this before, Lord, and look at me now. And but those are the times, in a sense, when faith draws you forward, but fear pushes you back.
And is that what you mean by the footsteps? Yeah.
Yeah.
What is, I think, in my case, interesting is that, strangely enough, somehow or other, the Lord led me to realize that, on the one hand, the business, which was really eventually evolved into an angel investing company, we were actually helping to set up a lot of businesses in the mission field to help missionaries have genuine cover for their right to be in restricted countries. Of course, with that sort of activities, you get some businesses that succeed, others that sort of have great challenges and never quite could make it. So it was always a question of taking a certain amount of mitigating action, but not always will it work out to be what you saw it to be. But in parallel with that, the thing that the Lord was challenging me to do in the walk of faith was that although the businesses eventually grew quite well, I was led not to ever depend on it for my family. I was supposed to depend on the Lord providing in a different way.
Did you find was that scary at times?
It was pretty sort of should I say mind-boggling in a way, because we couldn't see how it was going to happen.
Right.
But after a while, when we could look back and see that somehow or other the Lord provides, then it becomes easier, I must say, later on.
Was there some experience as you walked out that faith that you look back on now and go, gosh, that was such an amazing experience I would have missed out on if I did not walk the journey of faith?
So many.
Same. So many that
Pick
is
one
almost
dramatic one.
Yeah, right.
all of them were dramatic. So
There's one experience I had on council. Yeah, I've doubted myself the whole entire way through, and really not understanding why I was there or how I was helping anyone. I still feel that way. How I was helping anyone. And there was one time there was a vote, and one of my colleagues, we voted differently. And at the end of the meeting, my colleague said to me, my colleague said, "I'm sorry." And this was not me speaking, for sure. I said, "Hey, God has given us all our own perspective. And that's why we're all here. So don't ever apologize for your perspective." And she just stopped. "I love you." I love you too. But that's a thing that I wouldn't have recognized as God. Right? Yeah.
And that is such, I mean, when you think of the situations that we've faced in recent months, you clearly made a statement that I can disagree with you and I can love you just the same. And I'm not pretending. I can like you, I can love you, I can talk to you, and I can disagree with you. And I just love that story, Mary. I just love the fact that you know, that's such a remarkable endorsement of what you were saying, of what God did in you at that moment.
Yeah.
And it's just so great when God does that, when He says, "Look, you stepped out in faith, and I just want you to know, I noticed." Yeah.
I can share one quite interesting experience. I was meeting with this very wealthy property developer, and he was interested in making a fairly huge donation to focus on the family that I was then responsible for in Singapore. And we went into a fairly formal meeting. He had quite a few of his people at this meeting, and I had my team of people. And I was doing the presentation. And then it was going quite well. And then it came to a point where I had to take a decision. Should I tell him that, he may have to be willing to set some considerable sort of public challenges if he were to go ahead with the donation. So the question was, I do not know him well. This was actually the first, maybe the second meeting that I had with him in a formal setting. And I'm not so sure whether what his team of people would think. But in the end, I felt that, I had to bring it up. So I told him that, you could expect to get quite a lot of public reaction, which may not be necessarily positive when you become public knowledge that you are supporting Focus on the Family in Singapore. And his response was almost immediate. He says, that is the reason why I'm thinking of giving you the donation.
It's, it is the fear of public reaction, and I mean I can't imagine that that Mary, you've experienced that in so many extraordinary ways in the past. You're going to be a public servant. You live with ice boots, I should think. You live with cold feet. Because you know that somebody's going to not just disagree with you, but they're going to do so in a mean and horrible way. I mean,
it's terribly hard, and the past 24 hours has been worse than I've ever seen it. Just horrible, and I did freeze, and I didn't even want to leave my house. I'm like, I can just stay in my house. I literally was going to order groceries online because I just wasn't ready to like go out and confront anyone. I'm just exhausted. I am so tired, and then I'm reminded, right, at 4:00 in the morning when the Lord chooses to speak to me, that I have to pray for these people. And I know, like, every one of them, God, really? And every one of them.
One of the things that I've started to try and do is to actually verbalize that in my head. When the name of somebody who has hurt me or upset me or frustrated me or whatever comes into my head, I just rehearse those words. The Lord bless them and keep them. The Lord make his face to shine upon them and be gracious unto them. Because I know the words, I don't have to think about I can just say those words, and I feel like, okay, and Lord help me to mean that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because I'm trying. What I'm trying to learn is that actually, if God answers that prayer, then the things that I fear most won't happen.
That's really beautiful, right? It's because then that transferred into my fear, and how I can relieve my fear. And that's all the things that God does and places in our lives to help us come out of my house today.
And all of these things that we've talked about are all about the relationship between faith and fear. And faith and fear are inextricably linked.
And I love how God interweaves our journeys of faith together, as believers, because there is a building up of each other's faith as we fellowship with each other, as we walk the journey with each other, as people speak their stories into our story. It helps us to live into that faith, isn't it? And when we become isolated and we think this is my own journey by myself, that's when we are the weakest in being able to walk out that faith journey. And
yeah. I mean, because you said it, Mary. You didn't want to come out of your house today, and
I wasn't going to.
And if you hadn't come out of your house, you would have lived in an echo chamber, where you would have repeated to yourself how terrible things were.
Exactly.
Quite justified. And that echo would have got louder and louder and louder and louder. I mean, and that's what's happening everywhere.
Right. Well, I hope that, others who have been listening in on this conversation have felt blessed by these stories of faith, and that as you guys are journeying through your own dialogue of fear versus faith, that you will surround yourself with others who are going to booyah.
Yeah, I love that. That's so cute.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for
Thank
being
you.
here with us.
Yeah. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for being willing to be open with us. And
And it's an honor to share space with you.